it's a positive film. It has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science.
The story, when you actually put it into words, is only so much nonsense to hang a great visual experience onto. It's the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
Sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept. The fact that there is some deity or some power or some force that sort of controls our destiny works for good and also works for evil.
Marvelous, healthy innocence. Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang bang and people fall over and are dead, but, no horrors. A sort of wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
It's got whatever you want it to be. It's pure entertainment. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it can be interpreted as long as you enjoy it, which is the intention.
Hello, welcome back to Generation Skywalker, and tonight we are looking at Star Wars Celebration. So we have got a celebration of celebration, and who better to join me than someone that got back from LA from Celebration? That is Craig Spivey. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening.
Good time?
Great time.
Brilliant. Well, that is the show. We hope you enjoy. Only joking. I also have with me Jez. Good evening, Jez.
Good evening, everyone.
This was the first celebration you'd missed in quite a while, wasn't it?
Certainly is. Crushed. Looking forward to hearing what Craig's got to say there.
I think that's why Craig had such a good time.
Brilliant.
And finally, we have got Mark Daniels. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening.
You all right, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. All the better for hearing your dulcet tones.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Okay, so Celebration originally announced for 2020, rescheduled to August 2022 due to the pandemic, then pulled forward to May. Star Wars Celebration has recently taken place at the Anaheim Convention Center in California. And Craig, like we've just said, was the only one of the Generation Skywalker team to make it to the event. We have all attended celebrations, be it a few or a lot in the past. And on the back of our recent celebration shows of Farthest From and Echo Base Live, we're sitting down tonight to have a look at our past experiences of Lucasfilm's global Star Wars convention, and Craig will be given the opportunity to update us on some of the amazing highlights of the one that has just gone.
This fandom is like a community, maybe more like a family.
We all haven't seen each other in kind of a while.
We're all finally here. We can reunite.
It's really great to give the community just one big hug again.
All of these friends that have been waiting to meet up and enjoy Star Wars together finally get to see each other.
Long-awaited meeting has come at last.
You don't really realize that this part of your life is missing until it's gone.
Just to see smiling faces and being able to celebrate together is super exciting.
I see people from across the floor and we just start running up towards each other.
It's always being able to get together with people who love the same stuff that you do.
So let's talk Star Wars Celebration. Quick overview for those who have never attended. Jez, can you give a quick rundown of what people can expect from an event like Celebration?
An absolutely wonderful Star Wars overload, a complete gathering of fans celebrating the franchise from every genre. You've got a whole mixture of dedicated die-hard originals or those who are just there for the fun and the cosplay. It's just an absolute celebration is the perfect name for it, by the way. It is absolutely perfect. There's panels with members of the sort of cast and crew production, often promoting a new film or TV show. Now we've got Disney Plus, lots of vendors, lots of exclusives, lots of toys, lots of laughter, silliness, fun. It's just a thrill to go to, and you're just surrounded with like-minded individuals, and it's an absolute buzz.
It is. I think everyone that's ever attended will be in total agreement. Mark, Celebration Anaheim 2022 has just gone. That was the 14th event. Can you give us a quick rundown of where else it has taken place?
Yeah, so the first one was all the way back in 1999 in Denver, Colorado, in a place called Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum. And at that particular time, they were promoting episode 1, Phantom Menace. So, yeah, we're going all the way back to 1999. It's over 20 years ago. And then second one was in 2002. So it wasn't the consecutive year, which, as things have progressed, that's how it's tended to have gone. That one was in Indianapolis at the Indiana Convention Center. And then there was a bit of a gap again. Next one was 2005, same place. Then in 2007, so there's a bit of a jump. Los Angeles Convention Center, 2007, same year, Celebration Europe, which was the first time that it came outside the US, and that was at the XL Exhibition Centre in London. And then the following year it was in Japan, and then we start to see a bit of a rolling out of the machine as it gathers pace, and obviously people more and more in tune with what Disney are doing, and we get one then every year up until the last one, which you just mentioned, was at the Anaheim Centre.
Yeah, thank you, mate. So it's been all over the place. Obviously there has been European as well.
Yeah, first one was London. That was the first one outside the US.
Yeah.
Then it was Japan the following year, and then it went back to America. There was one in Essen, Germany. Then we got 2016. It came back to London. That's the one that I went to, and then back to America.
They're often in sync, aren't they, with promoting something? So the first 3 were all, as Mark said, promoting episode 1, and then it was promoting episode 2. Then it was promoting episode 3. So it seems like initially it was just all a big sort of fan gathering, but also a huge marketing ploy, very well timed. Then the next one after that was to the 30th anniversary, which I think is the reason why they had the 2 in 2007. 1.5 months apart. I mean, can you imagine that? One in America, then a month and a half later you've got one in Europe. But that was it. It was the 30th anniversary, so they really wanted to capitalize on it. So from then they've just used it as a great sort of tool to help them. When Disney take over, right? Let's do a celebration. Force Awakens has come in. Let's do a celebration. And I think because Disney have now started churning out so much, Celebration has kept pace with that, and very much like your San Diego Comic-Cons, where there's just always thirst for it, always desire. They're not struggling to sell tickets, are they? So it's an extremely successful venture for them.
It is indeed. It's an amazing thing. If you've not been to a Star Wars Celebration and you're a Star Wars fan, you really are missing out on an experience. Now, basically, how you would probably best describe it. Star Wars Celebration, a gathering of people that just love this franchise, whether you're young, old, whether you're into the original trilogy, whether you're into the sequel trilogy, anything in between. You've got the celebrities there. You've got the autographs, the autograph hunters, the people like photos with the celebrities. There's people that help make the movies and the shows that we love, authors, artists. The place is filled with vendors, cosplayers. I mean, the cosplaying is incredible. So I've only been to 2, but the cosplaying is just something else. And you see, young children getting involved. You see old people getting involved. The exhibit hall, size-wise, is just something different from anything you've ever seen. And you will find purses and shirts and toys and art, collectibles, statues, everything you can think of that could be Star Wars. I mean, I've seen dog coats. I've seen dog earmuffs for Princess Leia buns. It is mental. And then you've got the panels. There's normally, like what someone's just alluded to, normally a new project where you will get to see a new trailer, a new announcement, and then they bring out 8-10 of the cast and crew to discuss that for an hour. It's crazy, all the way down to you've got the collector's track, where experts on all things collecting, right down to the podcast stage. It's got everything. And then you've also got I haven't even mentioned activities. We've had VR experiences. There's crafting for the kids. There's R2 builder clubs and things. There's games you can get involved in, art spaces, props. Meet new Star Wars friends. That's the big one for me. It's brilliant. Go on, what have I missed?
Tattoos,
yeah. Very true.
Just lots of dioramas, but friendly people. I mean, Craig's been to the most, I think. You just don't see grumpy people. People are generally there, really, really happy. Oh, mate, can you take a photograph of me? You know, random strangers working together, people just chatting in queues, lots of exchanging of swag, all that sort of stuff. It's just smiley, happy people.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's basically taking a break from real life. For whether you're there for a day or 5 days, it's just immersing yourself in a completely different world and forgetting everything else. Leave it at the door. It's amazing.
My favorite part about being involved in the Star Wars universe is the fans.
The most passionate and creative fans in the world, Star Wars fans.
We are Republic! I know full well I don't get to even be making any of these shows or any things I've gotten to do without the support I've gotten from fans.
I love you. This is phenomenal.
It's just been such a thrill and honor to feel the energy of everyone.
I feel like I've just been adopted into a new family.
You have.
So let's get some of our own experiences of Star Wars celebrations. So a quick go around the table to how many celebrations you have attended, and let's go with one personal standout experience from any celebration. Mark, I'll start with you.
I've only ever done one, and that was the 2016 one in London. I have this issue where I have young kids, and if I said to them, Daddy's going away for a week and he's going to Disneyland and he's going to surround himself with Star Wars for that amount of time, I don't think I'll be able to look them in the eye ever again. So I'm really stuck with regards to when I can go, when it's feasible for me to go. When the London one was announced in 2016, I thought, right, okay, we're definitely going to do this, and got together with a bunch of the guys off the forum. This was in the days before Facebook really took a hold of Star Wars collecting, and a lot of traffic was going to the old Star Wars Forum UK, and we all clubbed together and we rented a couple of flats, and we had an absolute blast for the 4 days that we were down there.
Yeah, it was brilliant celebration. I think it's probably the first time that I know myself probably ever met you properly, and I think that would go for a few of the other boys as well. Any standout moment from that? Because you first celebration, you're on the collector's track.
Yeah, no, it was just an amazing experience, and some just magical moments. Obviously collecting track was one of those things. Doing a signing with the Acme Archives guys, that was another experience. But for me, it was the finally meeting of people that you'd spoken to online for so long and being able to meet them face to face. I think I'd only done one farthest from at that point, and it was just a great experience. I loved every minute. That for me was the biggest plus. The whole thing was just meeting all these people for the first time in person.
Brilliant. Well, what about you, Craig? I know you've been to several.
Yeah, I've done 7. The first London one, Essen, Anaheim, back to London, Orlando, Chicago, and Anaheim again. So, yeah, quite a veteran, really. I hadn't realised just quite how many I'd been to. Really hard to pick one moment. They are like 3-4 day events, just full of moments. Doing the collecting track with Mark and Grant in London 2016 was brilliant. That was the same year I dressed up as old Luke from Force Awakens, and that was an experience. I really enjoyed that. Meeting the guys from the Tourism Island stand, getting a gig to be their official Luke at a couple of events afterwards was just blew my tiny little mind. And then to go on and to be in the Champions of Cosplay competition in Orlando the following year. I mean, those are, as a Star Wars fan, as someone wanting to take an active role in the hobby, it doesn't get much better. It's Celebration that affords me the opportunity to do these daft things. I love it.
Yeah, brilliant memories.
All right, once again, we are still in the best likeness category, and we have Craig Spivey as Luke Skywalker. Craig has sported his fine beard for a number of years, but it was only following the release of The Force Awakens that family, friends, and complete strangers began to point out his resemblance to a mature Luke Skywalker. So with only a few screen grabs as reference, he set about creating the costume along with the local Irish seamstress, who was more used to creating genuine priest robes. Everything, bar the boots, were built from scratch. Though the fabric for the cloak was particularly hard to source, the belt was made by a saddler and a robotic hand constructed from a rubber safety glove. Cosplaying as old Luke especially appeals to Craig, as all he has to do is stand and look vaguely sad and wistful. But the new movies are set to change all that. Craig Spivey as Luke Skywalker.
Jez, can you rival 7?
No, I'm afraid not. I have 5. So, my first being Essen in Germany. And what an absolutely amazing time that was. That whole phrase, you'll never forget your first love. That for me was possibly the best. I don't know. I've got such great memories of each one, but I'd never experienced anything like it. Just walking in with friends and just, seeing the huge AT-AT, seeing just all people there, group think, everyone with the same sort of mindset and, going into their own little sort of swim lanes, but everyone loving Star Wars, and then just, being in a bar that night and just drunkenly chatting to one of the Ewoks, and then just getting hammered with Danny Logan and with Grant, and just waking up in a mess, but then just going to a panel and just wandering in and just having your mind blown. It was just amazing. It was just so exhilarating meeting Mark Hamill. I mean, can you imagine, your first celebration, and they're just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to meet Mark Hamill, my childhood hero, my adult hero, and going to meet him, get his autograph, shaking his hand. I mean, what an experience. Just came back utterly sort of overwhelmed, exhilarated, and I knew I had to go back for more, and so did my wife. That's why it's just like, yep, off you go. It's just, brilliant. So good.
How about you, Stu?
I've only done 2. I did London in 2016 and then Chicago in 2019. I'm a bit like Mark at one point, a bit like, spending money on that. It's got a little bit easier for me to be able to now say, I'm going to here. But I know it won't be long before, if I say I'm going to America, that my wife will be like, well, your son's at an age now where he's would like to tag along. So I'm waiting for that one to be planted on me. But
no, it's absolutely a consideration. It is. It's a big factor in these big trips, And
I don't mind him coming as long as he can keep up with the drinking. And thanks to you lot, he's quite well practiced. I mean, London was outstanding, but then walking into Chicago, just the scale of it, even compared to the European one, you're just like, whoa.
Hello there, Star Wars Celebration! We are back.
Right, let's move on to the event this year. Craig, you've just said, been to a total of 7 celebrations over 15 years. There was a lot of people that I know normally go from the UK. Not many of them went, I think 1 or 2. I think everyone was a little bit unsure about the travelling, the COVID restrictions, what was in place. Was it going to be, you were going to be cancelled last minute? Post-pandemic, how did this one compare? What were the notable changes, mate?
Yeah, I think going into it, there was a sense that it might not be quite the show it had been in pre-pandemic years, and I think that when you looked at some of the guest and the panel announcements that were starting to drip through quite late in the day, to be fair, not much of it felt like a must-see, apart from maybe when they announced that Ewan McGregor was going to be there signing and doing photo ops. I think that got people sitting up and taking notice. I think the COVID restrictions, while are much milder than events have been over the last year or so, it did complicate entry requirements, masking mandates. All that stuff was all up front in the advanced communications from the event, and factor foreign travel into that. It makes it a whole lot more complicated, and uncertainty about things being cancelled, variants springing up and upsetting the apple cart and changing plans at the last minute. So I can totally see why people might have skipped this one. The reality, the COVID measures at the event were pretty straightforward. You just had to show a proof of vaccination. You got a wristband that lasted as long as you were there. Masking was mandatory indoors. I'd say about 80-90% of people were wearing masks indoors on the event on the Thursday, but you could see how that tailed off as the event progressed through to the Sunday. And I think that the lack of enforcement upset a lot of people. A lot of people very conscious of being in an environment like that again, and there's an element of trust that that's going to be well run and well monitored. And I did see things online that people were getting quite upset that even people manning the doors were slipping in that regard. So it was a factor. It was there. It's in all the photographs. It'll be in all the footage. It was a post-COVID event. People were wearing masks. But the show, despite what I said about attendance, it never felt empty, though it never felt super overcrowded either. It felt like there was space to breathe. It's a big venue. Thursday and Sunday were obviously quieter than the Friday and the Saturday. So I think other than the masks, you might not have noticed. I think for me, the most noticeable thing in terms of the feel of the event was just maybe like the build of some of the booths on the show floor. I think where brands typically would push the boat out in years gone by with some big attention-grabbing stands and booths. There's a lot of generic-looking shelving and cabinets and fabric banners and stuff that was perhaps an indicator that post-COVID budgets were reining things in a little bit in that regard. Didn't quite have some of the pizzazz and the awe and the spectacle. Hasbro and Lego, always make a good account of themselves. But that was a sense I got going into it. That's a nitpick. I think when you're in the thick of it, it was as popping and as vibey as it always is.
I think with it being the first one back, you just got to jump in, haven't you? Just go with whatever the restrictions are. Just what you make it.
I think location-wise, Craig, Anaheim, when I saw all your videos and everything of outside and that little sort of strip of vendors and food halls, and there would have been a DJ thing going on, that was probably the best place it could have been for this first post-pandemic celebration, because that area, that sort of location, people gravitated towards outside and afterwards, I felt, when I was there in 2015. So if you had that, whereas I've been to other celebrations where outside the event, people then sort of drift off and go to various different places, where Anaheim seems like it's a celebration inside and out.
Yeah, and it's very airy. Like I say, there's lots of space. I never felt hemmed in or particularly breathed on. It's it was, the venue did work.
I mentioned at the beginning the cosplaying, and I can remember seeing on the build-up that people weren't going to be allowed to wear masks. The masked characters in the cosplay, helmets type of thing.
Yeah, so that piece of communication, because I saw that, and what that was perhaps taken a little bit out of context, in so much as what they were saying was that to stick a Ben Cooper Darth Vader mask on your face does not constitute wearing the proper protective face covering to prevent the spread of COVID. So it wasn't actually saying, no, you can't rock up as a stormtrooper. It was part of the wider communications about what masks were and weren't acceptable.
Right. Okay.
You get me? So people who had their faces on show would wear masks. You'd see them get stopped for a photo and they'd take the masks off and put them back on. And then, and as Jez says, a lot of the activity, a lot of the photographs were outside in that concourse area by the fountain. So, when you saw people walking around with these beautiful costumes, it was compromised slightly by the inclusion of a mask. But I think that's just where the world is right now. And I don't think it kind of spoiled people's enjoyment too much. As long as they got their photo looking the best they could, I think that was probably okay.
Luke, help me take this mask off.
But you'll die.
Nothing can stop that now. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes.
Anyone who has been to Celebration will know that there is so much going on. We've mentioned a bit of it here. It is impossible to be able to see and do everything. So to give the show a bit of structure, we're going to narrow it down to a few areas that relate back to some of the things we cover here at Generation Skywalker, which is basically everything, because we are all eras, all passions, all Star Wars. So roundabout way, this is everything. Right, so contemporary Star Wars. Let's start here. We like to discuss the latest Star Wars output from Disney. Show 66 is a prime example of this. That was an in-depth review of the Book of Boba Fett, and we will definitely be following up with one for the Kenobi show. A Star Wars Celebration is always a platform to announce and showcase what Lucasfilm are up to. This time the panels were Lucasfilm's Studio Showcase, Light and Magic, Mando, and a conversation with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And of course, Attack of the Clones 20th anniversary celebration, one of the greatest, easy top 6 films in the Star Wars franchise. So Craig, what did you get into? What went down? What did you see? What did you love? And what do you wish you had made?
Yeah, well, I mean, a little bit of context, I think, for people who haven't been to one of these events or know it from past events, that the live panels are very hard to get into. In the past, they've had a system where they would not actively encourage, but it seems to be the accepted practice. If you wanted to get first in line for one of these events, you would sleep overnight in the hall, which clearly was not sustainable as a system for fee-paying guests to have a good experience. So they have these panels, and you are invited to enter a lottery, and you get what the computer spits out saying you can attend. So obviously, when these things come through, you apply to go to everything. I entered everything I could. And then a couple of days before the actual event, I got an email saying that one of our party of 4 had got into the Mando Plus panel in the Twin Suns stage, which is a side stage. Well, it's a big room, but it's a screening room. So that was for the Saturday. So, out of everything, I'd got one ticket. It wasn't until like the Friday that I saw that the other 3 tickets and one for the Lucasfilm showcase was actually in my junk mail. So it was bizarre that one got through, but the other 4 hadn't. So I missed out on the Lucasfilm showcase, which was the opening panel on the Thursday, and it included all the kind of live projects. So I think there was some stuff about Willow in there. They had a little showcase of Indiana Jones 5. Harrison Ford rocked up. I think John Williams played the tune with an orchestra. There was some advanced footage of Andor. Everyone in attendance to that panel was invited to the Obi-Wan screening, which I think was that night. And there was also some Mando season 3 footage. So, that opening panel on those opening days are always the big one. They're always the one that everyone reports back on. They hit the news. They're where the trailers drop. So it would have been nice to have not had that in my junk mail. but you catch up later. I mean, this stuff is shared in abundance, and you can catch up on a percentage of the live streams afterwards back at the hotel. But we did all get to go into what they build as Mando Plus, this interview with Favreau and Filoni in this Twin Suns room. And, I have to say, they do a really good job at creating an atmosphere in there. There's a sort of an expectation that you're going to rock up and just watch this stuff on a screen. But, that the organisers are very good at just whipping the crowd into a bit of a fever. There's giveaways, there's competitions, there's stuff happening. There are presenters live in the room who are just sort of building up that moment until they kind of click into the live stream and start streaming from the big theatre. So that was great. It was a great panel. Obviously, it kicked off with Favreau and Filoni, and they slowly introduced guests from Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and they brought on Sabine Wren, the lady who's going to be playing Sabine Wren in Ahsoka. So, to be in that room, you're getting to see not only some extended footage from The Mandalorian season 3, which had already been shown on Thursday, but they showed some scenes from the new Ahsoka show. So just magic to be there and see stuff as it happens. As a collective experience, they're always really nice. Did anyone sort of catch up on the live streams or people watching along at home?
I saw a little bit. I think it was day one. I saw the day one Star Wars show when they upload it. And I thought it was really surprising because the first couple of segments which they had were about Willow.
Yeah.
I was just like, where is this severe lack of content that you're really pushing Willow? That's certainly got to be a day 3 push. It's a Star Wars Celebration. I didn't get it. And then they started, talking a little bit about Star Wars stuff. I haven't got around to watching them yet. I do love the panels though.
I really missed the meeting where we decided we wanted a Willow sequel. Were you lads involved in that one? Because I completely missed that one.
No one asked me, mate.
I'm with you, Mark. I really am. When I went to Essen, there were no queues. You didn't have to queue to get into any panel. You just wandered into it was like, oh, Carrie Fisher's doing a panel in 10 minutes. Should we go and have a little look? And you'd go and get a seat. It was brilliant. That was the first one Disney had got involved with. And that was one where they announced Rebels. So I remember Kathleen Kennedy coming out and talking, and they started talking about the sequel trilogy, and they brought out John Williams. Not physically, they brought out a film clip with John on, because that was her big reveal that they had secured John Williams, and everyone went mad. But I just remember there were no queues. It was so chilled. It was so laid back. We just went from panel to panel. And it was only then when we got to Anaheim in 2015, because of the episode 7 trailer drop and all that, that's when sort of turbo craziness kicked off for panels.
Yeah, I remember Essen very fondly for that reason. It just, I don't know, it was the perfect storm. It was just before it got silly, big enough to be exciting. It was Star Wars with a German flavour. It really does stand out, that event, Essen.
Have we got any more Twitter questions? Okay, this is having you tattooed on my arm in the morning. Bit scared. Will you come and hold my hand? He's getting you tattooed on his arm.
Yes, I will. I'll come and hold your hand.
So the other thing, and this wasn't announced in advance, but was born out of these panels and this access to the Filoni and Favreau kind of brain trust, was this announcement of the Mandalorian experience. So that was announced on the first day, that they were going to have this exhibit that everyone could visit as part of the show.
We took as many props and sets and costumes and vehicles and miniatures and loaded them up on trucks and brought them all down to Anaheim. And I'm here to announce a surprise installation that we did. I'm here to announce something called the Mandalorian Experience. I got to go through the archives and be up close to all of the screen used props from the movies that I've loved. And so we wanted to make this experience available for you. So this is a big thank you from all of us to all of you.
And I have to say, it was an absolute highlight of the 4 days. I mean, they've done this before. We had a small Force Awakens exhibition in Anaheim in 2015, and they had a few Rogue One bits in cabinets in 2016. But this was next level. It was over to one side of the convention hall and was like a pretty comprehensive look at all of the material that went into the filming of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And it wasn't just things in cabinets. They were proper set dressed scenes, scenarios. You had the Tuscans over in a corner on sand with a backdrop. It was all beautifully presented. There was a full-sized Naboo starfighter in there with an animatronic Grogu. There was an animatronic Bantha that you could stand in front of and get your photograph taken. And it wasn't just costumes, it was props, it was miniatures. It was just outstanding. As a treat to the fans that have paid the money and travelled and gone to this event, it was just perfect. It was so nice to see. Really good quality stuff, nicely presented. I mean, long waits for sure. You know, this was sprung on people. People were queuing several hours to get in, but we went down early on the Sunday morning, and we got in less than an hour. So I think, you know, if you time these things right, the rewards are just worth it. Really great exhibition. Did you see this online? Did you see any footage of this?
Seen lots of photos of it. It looks amazing, and everyone I saw online, it was the one thing that seemed to be getting really heavily praised.
Yeah, and I think maybe because it was a surprise, you know, it wasn't something that people had an expectation of. It just appeared. But there was, you know, there's stuff in there that, you know, as fans, we want to know. We want to know how Cad Bane's face worked, right? And there it was. The inner cabinet exploded. You could sort of get right close to it. They were happy for you to film. Everyone was walking around, taking photographs, getting as close as they wanted to. People were manning the exhibition, so they had the scale model of, because like the entrance to Jabba's palace, and there's a guy there just explaining, well, this was the model, and the guys built this, and then we scanned it in and we put it in the volume. You know, you go to some exhibitions and there's just grumpy people sat on chairs going, right, no photographs, go stand back from the rope. This was like, they wanted you to get up close to it. They wanted you to explore. They wanted you to enjoy and show off the work and the love that had gone into those programs. I was blown away by it. It's brilliant.
Well, love all of that, mate. I'm still going through the live streams. I watched a couple, but yeah, just time. I don't know where time's gone recently, but definitely still on the agenda to do.
Yeah, and obviously part of putting this show together, I've got some footage I took. So as we've been speaking about this, if you've been watching the enhanced version, you'll have been seeing some of this stuff. So it's nice to have this platform to share it with people.
This is where the fun begins.
We heard crowd go crazy, so we ran. I have never run somewhere so fast in my entire life.
Over the last years, we sort of felt the warmth for the films that we made, and it's meant a lot to us. It's meant a lot to me personally to feel that.
To see them happy makes the fans happy who grew up watching the prequels.
There are just so many cool things to do and so many cool panels to see. I wish I could clone myself so I could go to all of them.
I'm cutting back on electricity.
My daughter Bryce, she's been working on Mandalorian and others. Well, that makes me a proud dad, I'll tell Bryce.
There's so many artists here, stage pieces,
books, video games, comics, every single title when I was a kid, and it's at Star Wars Celebration, it's all here.
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
Every collecting hobby has that, you know, and it's an overused term, but that holy grail of collecting. And the rocket-firing Boba Fett, it's like to baseball card collecting, the Hannes Wagner T206 card. Every collecting genre has one of those. And you got a panel here of the experts in the world that will tell you about it from very different perspectives.
Right then, so moving on to the next section is vintage, something that we're all very passionate about, and obviously our vintage show is those old fossils. Star Wars Celebration, traditionally a hotbed for amazing items. How was the vintage hobby represented this time around, Craig?
It's a good question. I mean, obviously for me, scoping the vintage on the show floor is always a day one priority. But, you know, I have to say, in all honesty, there was probably more vintage Star Wars at Echo Live last April in Redditch. You know, and I think there might be reasons for that. I mean, it's clearly drying up. We're getting further and further out from when this stuff was widely available. You know, what was there was a bit battered. It's probably diluted by 25 years of modern toys that are surrounding it. So you'd go onto the show floor and the vintage stores were sort of scattered around a little bit. It wasn't particularly zoned. They were sort of around the edges. but you could, bounce them onto them and browse them. But you'd often see, there'd be like a bashed boxed Y-wing in a glass case next to some Micro Machine play sets. It was all just, you could sort of see this stuff becoming more smushed together. And that said, it was quite nice to browse stalls full of like treasure from the 90s. There's a nostalgia in that in itself. But if you compare it to something like Echo, which a lot of us and listeners will be very familiar with, it's wall-to-wall vintage, whereas this absolutely wasn't. And what was there was expensive as well. And it makes me wonder if shows like Echo and the ICCC and auction houses like Hakes are maybe diverting some of those top-end items away from something that's a bit more mainstream, like Celebration, because Celebration it is for everyone. It's not a vintage toy show. And if you think about how that works for a dealer, they're going to have the responsibility of handling their stuff, looking after this high-end stock in this big environment for a big percentage of the audience to walk past and go, how much? I had one of those when I was a kid, So maybe that is a consideration. Maybe that's why there wasn't as much as maybe there's been in previous years. I don't know what anyone else thinks to that as a working theory.
Wasn't there the ICCC as well recently? And you may have found that there were a lot of dealers went to that possibly because it was cheaper for them. I don't know. That originated in vintage collecting, didn't it? So maybe that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a shift compared to what's been on the show floor in previous years. It was a lot less, and what was there wasn't as good quality. But of course, some amazing stuff turned up in the room sales, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But on the show floor, Todd Chamberlain was there. Always lovely to catch up with him. I bought a few little bits and pieces. I think some of his stock is probably still priced up from 2019's Chicago show, so represented quite good value. Bizarrely, my biggest purchase from the dealers on the show floor was a full set of large size Mego black hole figures, because that's Disney's other popular space film, isn't it? They were face down on a shelf, and I've got a couple of them at home. I just out of curiosity asked how much they were, and he said, $300. I thought, well, I don't need them at $300 a pop. And I just said, what characters have you got? And he got them out. I went, $300. That's a bit much. He went for all of them. So okay. And then suddenly, like all these heads, could feel all these heads behind me sort of turn and look at these, which were pristine. They were absolutely pristine. So for $50 a piece, I took them.
There is an inexorable force in the cosmos where time and space converge. A place beyond man's vision, but not his reach.
Madman is headed straight for the black hole. What'll we do? We wait.
The journey that begins where everything ends.
So that was my big purchase from the stalls on the show floor itself. I think the vintage hobby was also represented by our friend Ross Barr at Collectors Archive Services, who we did have a good catch up on the mic. Lord knows what happened to that recording when I went back to find him. So sorry to Ross, but we did have a good catch up, and he did talk me through their new bubble protector, which they've created to secure bubbles to graded action figures, and it was nice to see those in the flesh. I think they are pretty good products. So again, I've got some footage of this, and you can have a look on the enhanced to see how these work. But effectively, they are a single piece of clear plastic that sits snugly over the bubble itself. So therefore, there's no movement of the bubble, and it offers that extra layer of protection. So if figures are kind of moving around inside the bubble, it's not going to break through because it's actually sort of touching it. So his anecdotal evidence of its popularity, he was telling me, he's like, people sign up for this thing, and they write back going, well, I thought you were going to put the bubble protector in. Why haven't you done it? And it's there. It's so clean and clear that it really doesn't detract from from your graded piece. So, I think quite a development in that regard. So it's not just about grading, becomes a little bit more about protection.
These people that were saying, where is it, are they like, do you remember like the people with ailments in the old travelling medicine show? There's a man that can't walk, and like they rub a bit of their spray on and suddenly they're dancing around. Were they placed?
He wasn't in the crowd. It was just something that Ross was telling me that people expected it to be far more visible than it was. So I guess that tells a little bit of the story. But yeah, nice to see that stuff out there. Next to Loungefly and people representing the vintage side of the hobby at a high level, which is great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing to talk about is the room sales. So, for anybody who's not familiar with the room sales, I think the room sales started in the early days of this event, physically in rooms, physically in people's hotel rooms, and with actual product on beds. And that wasn't containable for very long. And they became events where independent dealers, people who brought stuff along to trade and sell, would take over an area in a hotel. We've mentioned Essen tonight. I mean, the one in Essen was so memorable. That these things are technically unofficial. The hotels sort of suddenly have a situation on their hand where they're going to go, okay, well, all these sort of guys have turned up and they're buying drinks at the bar, so shall we let it roll? Essen was notable for this little collecting community taking over a room, and the hotel management deciding the best way to get rid of them was to smoke them out by turning the air conditioning off and turning the heating up. You remember that, Jez?
I sure do. Yeah, I think another has followed that tactic as well. I remember going to another one where it was stifling, but yeah.
They're a real fun, unique aspect of Celebration. And the room sales tend to take place on the Friday night, and they were rumoured to be upstairs above the bar in the Hilton, where they'd been in the previous years. And I was with my good friend Darren Goodwin, and we sort of went down just to scope out what was going on, see what was happening. But the escalators were closed to the upstairs area, and we weren't guests in the hotel, so we had to catch a lift up the elevator with a paying guest. And we got up there, and you could see things were starting to happen. It was mainly so the guys in their early doors were all like Mexican dealers, or appear to be from that part of South America, selling things I don't really understand. I must have seen about 3 12-inch Lily Lady hand solos, but it was fun just hang back and watch this stuff start to get unpacked. And Darren bought some bits of Lego, and we just found this corner to sit and chill in. And then this security guard turned the corner. We sort of watched him till a clock what was going on, and he was like a little bit like, wasn't quite sure what to do, and he disappeared off. Came back with another one, and they all started to congregate until eventually, like, a boss one in an anorak turned up with a badge on, like the hotel police, and they started to move them on. I thought, this is kind of interesting, So they start to walk around this sort of empty communal area, and people would slowly pack up, and then they'd walk past and they'd slowly start to unpack. There's a little bit of resistance, but ultimately they were moved on, and it was interesting. It was interesting to be sort of suddenly part of this movement. It was like trying to find a rave off the M25 in 1989. It was sort of like people on their mobile phones going, "We're moving to the Marriott." People were messaging around. There was also this moment where Chris George-Goudis came down and almost like blessed the new venue, sort of gave it his nod and floated back out again.
Excellent.
So it was just quite fun to be on the ground and see the room sales sort of start and then fail and then start up again. There were some mutterings that people had maybe tried to set up too early, and they'd have been fine if they'd waited, but ultimately it all went ahead. There was the usual amount of bewildering prototype stuff, boxes full of C-3PO white metal arms from, I don't know, the micro collection or what they were, but a whole load of stuff. I think there was a mold for a Boba Fett, like the metal mold. I think that had £12,000 scribbled on a post-it note. It's just crazy. There was a full set of boxed 12-inch, all beautiful in acrylic that I was looking at with our friend Peter Lee. We were eyeing up this IG88 that was $2,500, and everything else was priced down from there. But the room sales are an incredible place to see stuff you don't see. I mean, there was a nice, is it the Puffs tissues? The tissues from the States. There's a store display. I bought, and I know we've talked about these on the show before, the Women's Day magazines. So the Women's Day magazines were like a Women's Realm, Women's Weekly type publication. And I bought the magazine that had the Hoth base and the Dagobah play set. So they would create these things Blue Peter style and print the instructions on how families could make their own play sets at home. So there was a magazine with those two in, and then there was also the Death Star space station Star one, which was sort of notorious for having photographs of like lots of vinyl cape Jawas running around. They're the kind of items that I would never encounter in the UK. So to find them on a hotel carpet in LA was pretty cool. So I got those from Jonathan McElwain, who was selling those. But one of the best things I found was the Fascal stickers. That so the bootleg looking vintage stickers, of which there was a Star Wars range. Not unique to the UK, obviously lots of countries as well. But there was a guy selling a whole stack of those, including the Star Wars logo one that everybody wants. So I picked up all of them, all three of them, of which Mark's got one.
I have, and I love it. In fact, it's the only one I've got.
Is it? Well, it's the one to have. It's the logo.
Well, I was going to say, if you're going to have one, have that one. I think for me, the room sales, having known people go to previous celebrations before I went to the one in 2016, and seeing these things unfold and getting messages from people and photographs via social media. Have you seen this? This is for sale and blah, blah, blah. And it was almost a bit like Farthest From in terms of you dream up this kind of vision of what this event must be. The room sales, like magical sort of area in a hotel that just kind of spring up, and people just unload suitcases full of carded figures and really rare stuff, and people exchanging money and really cool vintage stuff. And when I got to the 2016 one, when you hear about things, you dream these things up in your mind, and you always think you're going to be let down. It's never going to be as good as what's in your head. It was better. It was one of those rare experiences where the actuality of it was much better than you could have imagined. And the one at, I don't know whether you lads can remember the one at London in 2016. It's just some of the stuff that was being displayed. It was like a car boot sale inside a hotel. It was just magical, and it happened so sort of organically as well. It was, whispers, what time is it going to start? Where's it going to be? And people were going round, and like Craig said, it was like going to a rave in the late 80s. It was, coordinated, really sort of Chinese whispers like. And I remember going up the stairs to the event, thinking, God, what's this going to be like? And getting up there, and it was just, there was people everywhere. It was immense. And then sitting in the bar afterwards, having everybody sat round a table going through the purchases. It just magical to me. That is one of the best parts of Celebration. It isn't necessarily the huge displays that are put on. I mean, that's great, and the talks, that's great. It's the fan organised elements of Celebration. It's the people that create these things for the fans. For me, having been to just one, that was the thing that really shone. It wasn't the big things that in the hall that were advertised, like the huge TIE fighter and stuff like that. It was the little things, all of those elements. And that will be one of the best things I remember about Celebration in London. And I hope and I pray we get to do that next year.
It is open.
It was so hot in that London one, wasn't it? Absolutely sweltering. That sticks in my mind.
It does amuse me. I mean, these people lay out these priceless prototypes and pre-production items, and there's people just stomping past with in their trainers, sweating on them.
Yeah.
It is a completely unique experience. It really is. Obviously, the other strong vintage element that appears at these shows is through the collecting track, and the collecting track has been a mainstay. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying from day one. It was up on the 3rd floor, and to my eternal shame, wasn't something I managed to get to until the Sunday. So this year, the Rancho Obi-Wan display, which is always features, in the past has been down in the main hall. This time they put the Rancho Obi-Wan display connected to the collecting track, which was a brilliant move, because it just created this richer zone, created more traffic. There was a real flow and an energy to it. So I think that was a bit of a masterstroke. And it was nicely themed. It was all around Mandalorians through the ages, right through from the concept of Boba Fett right through the current show. So it wasn't a strictly vintage showcase. It ran through all the eras, and it was all the better for that. But it was great to see, 3 rocket firing Fetts in a row, and all those really special items that had been put together through not just Rancho Obi-Wan's collections, but some of Gus's stuff was in there, and some other people. Really well thought out, nicely displayed, and as you walked around, it led straight into the collector's lounge, and there was lots of people hanging out, a little bit of structure to that area as well. So I know that they were having scheduled video watch parties, there were signings. They were organised enough to be producing a little printed handbill every day, which I thought was a really nice touch. What I did experience of that area was great. I took in one of the collecting track panels, which was Party Like a Star Wars Collector, which was hosted by Josh Mingle, Daryl Whitlow, James Gibbons and Amy Soberg. And I was interested in that one because I was keen to see what beers they were going to be talking about. And we'll talk a little bit more about beers in a minute. But how, look at how they would tackle a topic that we've already covered on a previous show and compare notes. So again, every time these events happen, there's an upswing in quality. These are now coming available online. You can go and watch these panels, and just the difference between the editing, the production values from this one to Chicago is in evidence. So they're doing a great job up there. The giveaways this year again were Star Tots. They'd done Force Awakens Star Tots. If I get one given to me, I will keep it. I'll put it in my little memory box of Star Wars Celebrations. But I was very keen to get one of the old Luke Star Tots from this range, which Jason Smith did pick up for me. So I'd just like to thank Jason for that. We're going to talk a bit more about the collecting track, though, aren't we, Jez?
Yeah, I really, really hope to. It's something which I'm looking at doing at the moment. The collecting track, for those people who weren't able to make it, they do a great job of producing them, getting them ready to upload on YouTube. So I am going to be saying to certain people of Generation Skywalker, right, let's have a little watch. But also we're going to be sort of guided through the collecting track panels by at least one person who was one of the panelists out there, but more to come on that. So we're going to have a dedicated show to the collecting track, and hopefully a few tips and ideas as to maybe what people can do with regards to securing their own collecting track panel for Star Wars Celebration Europe 4.
Okay. This is it, everyone. We're here to have some fun!
Strap in, baby.
No stormtroopers, no TIE fighters, no threat of annihilation.
Dum bum bum dum ba-dum bum ba-dum. Best vacation ever!
Summer's about to end, and we're all about to go our separate ways.
It's a vacation. Relax.
Hello there. Who are you?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
What is in this?
Come on out in the sun now. Come on out and have fun.
We are on holiday.
It's not that kind of holiday.
So far.
Rubbity. And don't forget my shoulders. They really burn. One never knows how long a moment will last. You must learn to enjoy yourself.
What do you know about vacations?
Go Jabba! Go Jabba!
And of course, we're not just about vintage here on Generation Skywalker. Anyone who listens know we are big fans of modern collectibles. And all our favourites were there. Of course they would be. I'm going to have to say again, Craig, what was there? Any exclusives? I mean, they seem to be a little bit low on the ground from what I saw. And more importantly, what did you buy?
Well, I think, you've always got those tentpole vendors like Hasbro, Lego, Sideshow, Hot Toys. The Hasbro stand's always a big deal. For me, it was nice to see a Razor Crest in the flesh out of the team. They're very good at showcasing the product, putting them in little cabinets and propping them. So they really do show off what they do very well. Also got to see the Jabba's throne room that we've talked about on the modern way. You can sort of see where the money is. It's quite a big piece. You see how involved it is. The Hot Toys and the Sideshow cabinets are just, they always pull a crowd. They're always just surrounded by people. So, again, seeing the things we talk about month in, month out in the flesh, propped as the people who are producing this product want them to be presented, is just a thrill. It's just really nice, and you can lose yourself in some of those displays. I think out of all of that the Ahsoka and the Maul statue that we covered, is just stunning. It's just amazing to see that and walk around it at the scale it is. But some great stuff. There was a really nice Rey versus Kylo statue, which I assume was Sideshow, but also the Attack of the Clones Hot Toys that came out recently. So they're at the front of the main hall for a reason. They pull people in, and they're very popular. I think Lego are always a masterclass in booth design. I mean, they're very Instagrammable. There's photo ops. They're obviously pushing their summer vacation film at the minute, so you could have yourself photographed with Lego Darth Vader playing volleyball. But they're also great at the exclusives. I mean, the Lego exclusives this year weren't great. I think they were like the brick heads. They had a different sticker on them. They weren't anything kind of particularly new, but they've always got their products in the cases. And they even had a little panel to one side, and they were running Q&As with some of the Lego designers. So a really good stall that gets the balance of shifting stock, at the same time providing a really nice experience for con goers. Alongside all that stuff, you've got smaller vendors, whoever's picked up the license in the last year or so and they want to push their stuff. So you've got the usual random things like watches and luggage and body pillows and bouncy castles and terracotta Chewbaccas that you grow cress in and all that random stuff. But obviously I made a beeline for the Geeky Tiki stall because they had a lot of exclusives at Celebration this time, which for reasons I'm not sure, they'd split between 3 locations. So Geeky Tiki had their own stall, which they were selling the Dewback Series 1 of the Cantina mini muglets, the arcade mug, and the pre-order of the TIE Fighter. Toink had Cantina Aliens Series 2. They had some of the scenic mugs and a few of the other recent releases, but you could only get the Bantha and the Rebo Band muglets from the Celebration store. So if you wanted a clean sweep, that was quite a bit of work to stand in all those lines and get to all those places. But I did well by us all, brought back those who wanted stuff bringing back what they were asking for. So I did manage to pick a few bits. I'd been hoping to get some time with their big kahuna, Brandon Giraldez, but he just had a new baby, so he wasn't in attendance. But congratulations to him. Did speak to a few people connected to the brand about where they were at, what they were doing, and obviously the big questions around shipping to the UK, which I know had been something that had been raised with them a lot over the space of the weekend. But watch this space, because we do have some time put aside to talk to Geeky Tikis properly and get to ask them a little bit more about their process and what their plans are with Star Wars. So I'm really chuffed about that. So something else to look forward to. You'll be getting an invite to a virtual cocktail party.
Oh, amazing. They have almost become our collective favourite brand, haven't they? Which none of us just saw coming. I remember seeing them at Chicago, and just thinking, oh, what if that's strange, as I picked up my sort of Star Wars barbecue tongs and I saw these things and it passed me by. Fast forward a year and I get myself and the Millennium Falcon and muglets shipped over from America like you did. And, it's strange, isn't it, how things evolve in passions and tastes change and stuff. But when we all got together in Stu's back garden, there was an overall dominance of tiki theme. Yeah, super cool.
I did get to spend a bit of time with one of my other favourite licenses from the last couple of years, which is Theory 11, who produced those playing cards that I really like. Would you like to hear a quick interview with some of the guys from Theory 11?
Yes.
Okay, let's play that clip now. So I'm here with Kristen from Theory 11, who make the amazing Star Wars playing cards that I know we've talked about a couple of times in the past on the show. So give us a quick rundown of the range that you do.
Absolutely. Our Star Wars decks are super cool. So we have light side and dark side decks. The originals came out in red and blue, but we also have a special edition for those of white and black, which is awesome. They look so clean and so smooth. But we also have a Mandalorian deck, and personally, I just think that is a stellar deck. The characters are great, the court cards are great. It's a must-see. You have to see it.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of us on the show are designers. We've got backgrounds in graphic design, illustration, so very much drawn to this kind of thing. I mean, the process of making them, I mean, what can you tell us about how that all works? Do you have any kind of insight on that? According to our research, this is done by, is it Matson Creative? They're the illustrators, they're the guys behind this. I mean, do you go to them with the brief and say, we want a set of cards, there's 52 of them, they've all got the same back, but for everything else, knock yourself out?
A little bit, sure. That's more. Yeah, there's probably more executive decision going on behind that than just strictly that. But yeah, it's a really collaborative process. We definitely like to kind of go back and forth to make sure we get the designs true to the character, true to the series. You know, these characters are beloved by everyone in the Star Wars fandom. So making sure that we work with design teams that really adhere to that is important to us, and I think we captured that for sure.
Sure, and they've got a very distinct style, and I know that I've got some experience myself, and I know I've spoken to lots of people who've got experience working with Lucasfilm, just how strict they are and how you have to adhere to some very tight parameters when it comes to representing their characters. But they seem to have given you a little bit of freedom to have some creativity with that, and there's a little bit of wit in there, and there's some charm. So they obviously like what you're doing.
Yeah, no, we've been really lucky to work with them and have them really accept a lot of our ideas. It's great because if you look at some of our decks, we have all these beautiful little hidden gems in there. You can pretty much stare at the tuck cases and the back designs of these decks and forever and find new things. So it's been really awesome to be able to kind of build those into these decks. So take a good hard look at the decks and you'll just be blown away by the detail on here. And it's great. They love it. We've been able to submit these ideas and have them just really get on board, so it's been a dream.
Yeah, I think the advent of digital media, there was a lot of talk about print being dead. That's it, we don't need it anymore. But you look at this as it's essentially, there's a bit of foil on there, but it's ink on paper. They are beautiful objects.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, they're stunning. We also have a gold edition Star Wars deck that's pre-order on our website right now. It's coming out in July. So
okay, so is this the same design as the blue and the red and the silver and the dark one?
Our gold edition deck is going to be a hybrid.
It's a hybrid of the dark and light side with gold foil printed on the back of each card. So it's a.
This is Chris Chelko, by the way.
Pleasure to meet you. How are you?
From Generation Skywalker.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we talked about your cards on our show before, so it's just nice to meet the company, and just make a bit of a connection.
Yeah, we're not a faceless company at all.
No, and I think something else that strikes me, there's a lot of Star Wars merchandise out there. There's a lot of very expensive Star Wars merchandise. This is really affordable. I mean, it's beautiful stuff, but it's like, over in the UK, it's less than £10 a pack.
Right.
Yeah, no, they make great gifts. I love that. And the cool thing about cards, unlike some other gifts, is they bring people together. You can play games, you can do all sorts of stuff. They're fun items, but they're also so beautiful, you can just display them.
Sure.
Yeah, it's wall art, technically.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, every little card is a piece of art.
Yeah.
Including the back and the jokers and the advertising card. I mean, everything about it is, for us, created from scratch. I mean, so it is. For $10 and it fits in your pocket, you can. And the things you can do with the deck of cards are endless.
Well, this is it. I've got a set that are all sealed and they sit on the shelf, and I've got a set that are open, and should there be a power cut,
exactly right.
and I know where they are.
Exactly.
Okay, that's amazing. So I've got one more question, which you can and ah about and dodge if you like. But what's next with the Star Wars cards?
It's hard to say. because they keep coming out with new shows, Obi-Wan, I mean everything.
Exactly.
So it really is pretty endless. So this is the start to our Star Wars and Mandalorian series. I think there's going to be plenty more on the horizon. It's hard to say, really, but right now the gold edition it's also new technology for us. Printing foil on the back of every playing card is sort of new in the playing card world, and we're happy to be doing it. So I think it's going to shine, just like C-3PO, and it's going to pop. It's going to be great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
This gets included in our roundup.
That would be
Wonderful, yeah. We would love it.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Pleasure to meet you.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out.
That was Kristen and Chris from Theory 11 talking about their Star Wars playing cards, which are lovely.
Hello, old friend.
Here we are again at the Celebration store.
I love this. We come here every celebration to show off some of the unique exclusives that they have for everybody who attends the convention. Starting right here at Dex's Diner. It's the 20th anniversary of Dexter Jetster.
I know you've been waiting for this for a very long time.
20 years.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna look around at some other stuff, but make sure they know that I want this.
Anthony, I've always wanted to learn the secrets of the Force like a Jedi.
Andy, you're in so much luck. Because this is the official, unofficial Force training kit where you can learn the secrets of the Force like a Jedi. Everything you need is in this kit. You get a rock, a second rock. All you gotta do is lift them with your mind. Oh, that one moved.
Well, I'm really excited to see Frog Lady here. She's got her cute little tank of eggs.
This is one of my favorite episodes. One of my favorite bits from the show.
Good.
One of my other favorite things was to see this guy.
Oh, yes.
To see Kersantin make it big in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Aunt Beru's dark roast stuff this year. Right? Am I right? But this is great. It's on mugs, it's on shirts, it's on a patch. And
I love a little bit of dark humor.
I guess this fits with the modern theme. We need to talk about the Celebration store. Always much hyped products from the Celebration store. They're the things everybody wants that weekend, but they never seem to retain any value or or have any credibility on the secondary market. But Celebration store, obviously a big deal. Managing the lines into that must be a nightmare for them. They have a Lightspeed lane style system that you have to get on at 8:30 in the morning. Generally, every time I tried to use it, it timed out. So by the time we got to the store on the Sunday, it was slim pickings. And that has been my experience of the Celebration store a couple of times. So, by about lunchtime on the Sunday, there's only the things that were never really going to sell left. I struggled to pick up a program. I like to pick up a program every time I go to Celebration. But they had to rummage around behind the counters and find me one. So highlights from the Celebration store. I mean, I think we discussed these a little bit in the Attack of the Clones wrap-up show when we talked about some specific Attack of the Clones pieces like the Zen garden, the sand garden, and the sand repellent Anakin beach towel. So there's always some fun stuff. It's sort of like it's the swag that people can do when they've got Lucasfilm's budget, the fun little novelty items, whole load of t-shirts, whole load of patches, magnets, all the sort of souvenir stuff that you would expect to see. Did we buy anything? I think we bought a Dex's Diner patch with the little WA7 robot on it and the Bantha. The Bantha mug, which Kimberly I was surprised. She just saw it and went, nah, guys, it's got to come home with us. So we've got the Bantha punch bowl as well. Was there anything in the Celebration store that you guys saw that caught your eye, or any past Celebration store purchases worthy of note?
I still wear my X-Wing t-shirt, my London X-Wing t-shirt with pride, which I think was a great design. They're some very, very clever designs. Some designs which I think, Mark would be particularly proud of as well, because Mark is just our designer extraordinaire when it comes to that sort of stuff. There's just so much. Mate, if I had known that you had, say, a spare suitcase, I would have given you a whole shopping list. But I really didn't want us collectively all to take the mick, and I wanted you to enjoy it as much as yourself. But yeah, if I had known you'd be able to bring back all sorts of stuff, I would have given you a huge list.
The little plush frog lady from The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There were quite a few of those left, to be fair. You know, that's a pretty good account of what modern stuff I saw while I was out there. I mean, obviously, there's a huge amount of stuff, popular things like Loungefly and Funko Pops, obviously very popular. People mobbing their stand and getting tickets to stand in line to get the exclusive Funko. So all that stuff's going on. This is my account, skewed to the things that we like to talk about.
Craig, the social aspects are key, not only post-show meetups, but you also managed to end up building on our 2 Star Wars beer shows and your beer blog post by actually sponsoring a Star Wars can and bottle trade on the Saturday night. Can you tell us all about it?
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Celebration it's just as much about what you get up to after the show. It's where, and we've all mentioned it tonight, it's where the friends are made. So, you know, I didn't hide away in the hotel room. I was out every night. So the first night warm up on the Wednesday was at the Star Wars Tiki Facebook group meetup at the Tangora Terrace outside Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Room at the Disney Hotel, which was a nice, easy one to start with. Bit of a mingle, trade some swag, see a few people. Best swag of the whole convention was handed to me in that first 5 minutes, which were mini Stormtrooper Tiki mugs by a lady called Alexia Hilario and her husband, which were unrivaled throughout the rest of the event. And we'll talk a little bit about swag in a moment. Thursday night, I went to a party at a bar called Bobby V's, which was hosted by an LGBT Star Wars community podcast called Pink Milk. And what a lovely bunch of people they were. That was really nice to hang out with some different people, meet a few new folks. Friday night was the room sales and a chance to catch up with Jason and have a beer with Peter Lee. But the Saturday night was the Generation Skywalker sponsored beer event. So I know that when we've spoken about Chicago in relation to the beer shows we did, we discussed this bottle trade that we chanced upon on Facebook and went along to, and what a great experience that was to share beers from all around the States. We brought some with us from the UK, with a bit of a Star Wars theme, and it was such a lovely event, and we made such good friends. We were keen that this would happen again. And obviously, I say Kimberly drove a lot of this, but there was an event that cropped up on Facebook called Hop Wars, which was like an after party on the Saturday night with a craft beer theme to be hosted at a brewery called Rad Brewing. And that was being organised by a podcast called Fresh Hops and a guy called Joey Pittman. And, you know, Kimberly reached out to him and said, well, this is the closest thing we've seen to this beer event that we went to in Chicago. Is there an element where we can trade beers? And that they struck up a bit of a relationship online. Kimberly went on his podcast. They talked Star Wars beers, and this idea of this beer event grew. You know, obviously, it's a difficult thing to ask a brewery or a venue in terms of, you know, people rocking up with pre-bought beers and opening them and exchanging them. We reached an agreement with the brewery that yes, we could bring along these beers as long as they stayed sealed and didn't interfere with the trade of the evening. So I volunteered our services to create them a little logo, and I'd said I'd do a post-event video. So that was the extent of our sponsorship, but it was a nice way of just putting our name to something there that was on the calendar of events and featured in the roundups of like the after hours fringe activities, if you like. It took place in a brewery. We had a little dedicated area where we could set up the different beers, and people just got into it. There was a real buzz about it before the event. Kimberly did a great job of just promoting it. She promoted it in groups like I forget the exact name of it, but Flying Solo. So where people were going to Celebration on their own, we put it in there as a way of people to kind of come and mingle and swap a beer and get to know folks. So it was really well attended. It was really well attended, and I got to see some really interesting products. I think the the beer scene, as you know, the Star Wars beer scene, I think it produces some really unusual stuff. It's a little bit edgy, it's a little bit under the radar, and it's all the more fun for it. So we came back with a whole load of really unusual and beautifully designed beer bottles and beer cans that all had this Star Wars theme. And there's one, it's called Hello There, and it's got beautiful drawing of Obi-Wan Kenobi and his EOP. So I'll share some of the pictures. But yeah, it was a great event, and chatted to a few people, and also got to catch up with Will and Robin, who were the guys that we met at that very first one in Chicago. So I've got a little bit of an interview with them, which I can cut to now. So I'm here with Robin and Will Arnold, and we are at Rad Beer for the Hop Wars Star Wars Celebration After Party collaboration with Craft Beer Pinup and Generation Skywalker Bottle Share. So
it's going really well. Yeah.
It's early.
Oh, and there are lots of people here.
But
A lot of beer, yeah.
There's lots of people here, and people seem excited to share Star Wars themed beers from around the world, which is just great. And I know I've told this story on the podcast before, on the beer show, but that's how we met.
Yeah. Yes.
At an event very similar to this in Chicago in 2019.
That was our first celebration.
Yeah.
And we heard about the event through the Facebook group, and Will was homebrewing at the time.
Yeah, so it was just a little homebrewers beer swap, right, at a homebrewing club out in the neighborhoods in Chicago, kind of on
Really
the west side of Chicago.
It was nighttime. There were maybe several streetlights out.
It looked a little shady from the outside.
Yep.
But,
and it was pretty small. I'd say there was about 20 to 30 people.
Yeah.
And throughout the night, I saddled up next to Kimberly as the only other gal there. I was like, we're going to be friends by the end of the night. And she had Stay Puffed.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
was
Tiny
cracking it
Rebel.
open, and it was delicious. And you had a homebrewed stout.
Yeah. Poured me a cold one, which I'm wearing a t-shirt of right now, which you can definitely see in the podcast.
It was a leap of faith for all concerned, really, to go away from the convention centre, get in an
Far
Uber,
away.
quite a way away,
Yeah.
into an industrial area, to a lock-up garage.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great night, and I think hopefully from the evidence so far this evening, the start of something. So we were very keen to do it again, and sort of expected it just to happen organically. And we were watching the Facebook groups and seeing what was going on, and then this craft beer event, Hop Wars, came up, and in a very short space of time, Kimberly and Fresh Hop Podcast made friends and started to collaborate on this. So, we put the word out, and we've had about 400 RSVPs tonight for this event. So we shall
I
see.
hope they all come. I hope everyone makes an appearance tonight.
We shall see how it goes.
I hope you have to buy more luggage.
It is the Saturday, so people get tired, so we can expect a 30% drop off of that at least. So, but yeah, we came laden down with cans and bottles from Empress Brewery, who are a Star Wars themed brewery, let alone a brewery that makes Star Wars themed beers. We've got some Obi-Wan cannelloni, which has been made by Brew York, who did the Mos Eisley Katharina that we've tasted on the show, and the Mandalorian that we tasted on the second beer show. This is their third Star Wars beer, so we've got a trilogy from them. And I think there's some other stuff. Execute Order 66. I think that might be a Emperor's collaboration with somebody. It's out of reach. I can't tell you exactly who. But we've probably got about 20 beers that we brought over.
That's amazing, though. It's so few and far between in the United States. Like, only a few people do it, and they don't mass produce it, and you can't ship it all over the country. And so it's really cool that you're able to get such a wide variety and so many microbreweries involved in that. We're jealous.
Well, we put it on the group, and so many people came forward and said, "Oh, well, I've got this. I'm going to bring this from Ohio, and I'm going to bring this from wherever." And it's like, wow, this is a great Darth Maul can, and there's one that's it's everything. You name it. There's something on the can, and some of it's subtle, like we've talked about before. It's just a funny name, Star Warsy name. And other things they're all out, and they are
copyright worrying graphics. But I think it's a wonderfully exciting little niche.
Yeah, it was, especially in Chicago with such a small and intimate setting, after you got over the fear factor of it, there was an interesting intersection between the people that were really into beer and the people that were really into Star Wars. And I feel like there were a couple of outliers from the Homebrew Association that hosted us last time of I've seen Star Wars, to the hardcore guys who are making their own beer, labeling it Star Wars, and are into beer and hops and the science and are into Star Wars. And it's just a cool little pocket of the fandom that we had no idea existed if it hadn't been for the Facebook group.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a Venn diagram where that sort of overlaps, and I think there's, people who are running these microbreweries, they're of an age, and it's part of their culture too. They tend to be on the geeky side, let's be honest about it, in a good way, a positive way, and they express their love of the pop culture through what they're doing. And it's not just Star Wars; you see it with Ghostbusters, Transformers, whatever, but it does bleed through into their product. And it connects with their audience. They share the joke, the funny pun name for their beer.
Yeah, pork me a cold one.
Pork me a cold one. Yeah, we always go for the puns.
Well, that's it. You instantly have that connection. I see that, and I know you're my kind of people.
Right.
And speaking of which, we sort of struck up a friendship that night, and you've been over to England, and we met you on our honeymoon. You crashed our wedding.
I was going to say, met or crashed. Yes. Thankfully, my mother will not hear this, but I got shamed for crashing your honeymoon.
Did you? Well, you were invited.
That was inappropriate.
You were
I was like,
invited.
are you kidding? No, Mom, I'm going.
No, it was wonderful, and I think we've got a whole episode in just sitting down and talking together, talking about your art, talking about your collaging, talking about your Vader collection, and I think we still need to do that. But just quickly tonight, just give me your impressions of Celebration this year. How's it been for you?
It's been great. This is our second celebration, and so it's been so fun coming back and seeing a lot of people who we met at last celebration. Obviously, you guys at the top of the list, you and Kimberly, but lots of other people. We personally really enjoy making swag, stickers, and we've done some zines and buttons and things. Of our own kind of artwork and just Star Wars fun.
We love to give it out to people,
and we love sharing that with people. And so we've met a whole lot of other people through that, other people who are doing similar kind of things, and that kind of fan generated, just homemade excitement about Star Wars is I think some of my favorite thing, and that really was in some of the homebrew stuff at the beer event last time too, and it's similar with the breweries doing it, like you said, they're just a bunch of nerds too who also enjoy this stuff and who are wanting to do that, and you can see people participating in the Star Wars culture at every level, from the kids making little drawings to bring in and trade with people, all the way up to official companies making products that they're selling and stuff like that.
It's great. It's great, and I had the great pleasure of introducing you to the room sales last night.
Yes, that was a blast. Definitely a highlight of my trip.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, and we'll turn the recording off and go and have some beers, and we will definitely get you back properly and do it over Skype and have an evening. And
absolutely.
I need to redo my list. So no rush.
A structured interview.
I think I need to do all Vader, so I need to redo my list.
Cool.
Right,
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
So yeah, that's Will and Robin, and a little chat that we recorded at the beer show. Hop Wars, incorporating the Generation Skywalker sponsored beer, can and bottle trade. And next time, we'll all be there having beers.
We will.
I have 20,000 Republic Dactaris.
Republic credits? Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
I don't have anything else, but credits will do fine.
No, they won't.
So, on to something that we've already alluded to at the beginning of the show, and that is swag. We've mentioned it on other shows as well. fan-made items made to break the ice while queuing for an event or for trading with other collectors. You see some absolute standout pieces on this. Swag items seem to get more elaborate and more intrinsic to the event every time, and you were keen that you didn't go empty-handed. Can you tell us about our swag, Craig, how it went down, and any key pieces that you were handed back?
As a phenomenon, it goes from strength to strength. I mean, I think to the point where I was with my friend Darren, I'd designed him some swag. It was a bit last minute. It didn't turn up in time. And it was almost like he was socially compromised for not having anything with him, because it really is a thing. It is the way that a lot of fans will talk to each other. There's an expectation that if you hand something out, that somebody will open a bag and start rummaging around and say, would you like one of these? Would you like one of these? It really is a social lubricant and etiquette to it, all of its own. I think it can get a bit extreme, to be honest. I think, I'm not lying, there's a certain sector of the Star Wars swag trading community that takes it perhaps a little bit too seriously, but they're having fun and they're not hurting anyone unless they're elbowing kids out of the way to get to their patches. But it really is a thing. So I was keen, and I know that we weren't going out there en masse. It wasn't a big Generation Skywalker push, but I wanted to make sure that we did have something that was of a suitable quality. It didn't have to be elaborate. So the swag that I created for this event, it's all based around the poster art. So I know that one of the old Fossils shows that we did talked about the unproduced poster art that I discovered online, and we that spawned a blog. It's spawned a section on the podcast, but also Jez finding that Palatoy sheet that was part of the packaging for one of the poster sets from the 1977-78 releases was just a nice thing to latch onto. So the idea was that we took those designs, scaled them down, changed the proportions slightly so that they'd fit a postcard pack, and make a little postcard pack with an insert in a little poly bag as a little miniature replica of what was ultimately the Kenner version. So I played to the gallery, spelt colour without a U. But they were nice, easy things to hand out. It didn't cost us a lot to do, and they were different enough to stand out from all the patches and the pins that people do. So it was nice to go out with 250 of those and put them into people's hands. You could tell if people had a connection with it. Some of the older guys, there'd be this glimmer of like, oh God, that's amazing, I had one of those. But at the same time, you could give it to a kid who was queuing to go to see the Mandalorian experience, and they got a little colouring pack. So I think as a piece of swag, I was really pleased with how that landed with people. Obviously, if they took the time to open them and explore them, there's a QR code on there, took them to the blog about colouring posters. But that was our swag. That's what we went out with. So if you picked up one of those, good on you. I hope you coloured it in and had some fun with it. So I wasn't actively hunting things down. I mean, it was organically. If you got talking to people give you swag, and it was nice. I wasn't hunting down any particular runs of patches or anything like that. Notable elements of swag: the Twin Suns Brewery did their beer themed patches again, which followed on directly from the ones they did in Chicago, which were really nice. But I think if people want to explore some of the swag, just go and check out the swag group on Facebook, because there's been a lot of work since of people collating what was out there and showcasing it, and there's just some stunning things, some absolutely stunning things. To say these are fan made, the thought that goes into them, the creativity that goes into them, it's a massive part of Celebration. I've mentioned the little miniature tiki mugs, which are great, but I think one of my favorite bits was Billy Galaxy's human cyborg relations pin badge, which he'd made out of that French illustration that Stuart loves so much of Princess Leia making sparks come out of C-3PO's neck.
The most amazing image ever. I love it.
I love the is it the Wilro Hoods ice cream patches and ice cream tub, and there was like different flavors, and the patches, the illustrations and the design and the effort that went into creating that whole swag was just next level.
Absolutely. It was tiered, so I think you could get the patches. I think they had the tubs, they had like little branded wooden spoons, and I think they were like exclusive like scoops in presentation boxes. I mean, it's high-end gift level, some of it.
So fans do some of the best stuff. I've said it before, I'll say it again, fans do create some of the best stuff.
You've said that before, haven't you, Mark? And I think you've said it again.
I'm gonna say it again, just in case that message isn't registering with any of you. Stuart, you in particular, fans do the best stuff.
I've said this before, but if you're watching the enhanced, there'll be lots of pictures of swag.
What about that blue one? We'll take that one.
Yeah, I'm quite sure you'll be very pleased with that one, sir.
Right then, Craig. So I want you to sum up. Was it worth the trip, and was it worth the effort and money?
Summing that up, yes. Yes, it was.
Okay. Right. There we have it. No, joking. Carry on.
No, I mean, it's not a cheap trip. Foreign travel is not cheap. It is not easy. It is not convenient. It takes a lot of effort. It's a little bit stressful, particularly the way the world has been the last year or two. But once you're out there, it's about the moment. And I think for me, celebrations is something that I have decided to prioritize. Been to 7, that's excessive. I see people online going, I can't believe I'm going to celebrations. Once in a lifetime trip for me. I just love it. I love it so much. Being with my people, being in such a big space with such a diverse range of people. I enjoy hanging out with vintage Star Wars collectors in shopping centres in the UK. I love that as well. But there's just something about celebration that makes it worth the while, and we're going to talk about it in a moment. But the fact that it's coming to London, we're based in the UK. We need to get together. We need to get to Celebration. I also think, it's not just about that event, and there's something about doing some Star Warsy stuff on that side of the coast in the States. There's a bit of magic to it. There's a bit of Hollywood. There's a bit of the San Fran area that is just where all of this was born. So it's a spiritual thing, if that doesn't sound too ridiculous, and to be over there, drive around LA, see the giant Obi-Wan Kenobi billboard posters in the sunshine against the palm trees. I mean, we spent time either side of the event around Burbank and Orange, and you go to antique centers and they're putting little displays on of Star Wars collectibles because Star Wars was in town. It's just great. And of course, because you're in Anaheim, there's Galaxy's Edge. I mean, I could fill an episode with my thoughts on Galaxy's Edge, but it's suffice to say that I was blown away by visiting Star Wars World and flying the Millennium Falcon.
I've seen the real one.
How many of you is your first Star Wars Celebration? Any of you first? How many of you would come to Celebration again? Me too. Well, imagine if this is your first celebration and you're also the first time starring in a Star Wars series as amazing as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, we had a guest that stopped by that has had such a good weekend. He just wanted to come out and say hello. You guys want to say hi to one of the cast members of Obi-Wan Kenobi? In his first appearance in a Star Wars series and his first Star Wars celebration, we have the Grand Inquisitor himself, Rupert Friend. He's right back here. Come on out, Rupert.
Thanks for doing this. Thank you.
So, Rupert, how was your weekend?
It has been the weekend of my life. I want to thank you guys so much for my first ever Star Wars celebration. You made me feel at home. The people that came to see me at the signing tables welcomed me to the Star Wars family. And I want to say it feels great to be a part of your family. Thank you.
Do you think you'd ever do this again? Would you ever come back?
Hell yes.
That's great to hear. Well, I was wondering also, since you're here, if you would help us make an announcement about maybe when we could do this again.
Oh.
If you're interested.
You want to do this again? You want to do this again next year?
Next year, in less than a year.
And none other than my hometown, London, England.
Star Wars Celebration, April 7th through 10th at Excel Center in London, 2023.
See you there.
Rupert Friend, ladies and gentlemen.
you so much. Yeah.
And for all of you, we love you. We love Star Wars. Thank you so much. This has been a weekend for the history books. And may the Force be with you.
Okay, so Star Wars Celebration is going to be returning to London XL on April the 7th, 2023. That is just 9 months' time. Are we all attending? Well, I can answer that question for all of us. Yes. Hotels booked. I'm not sure on the rest of you. Me and Jez already are. Yes. 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi and our shot in the UK. I mean, Ahsoka must be due around then at the same time. This is going to be the best. 4 days rather than 3, like last time it was in London. Thoughts, boys? Let's chat London. We're all excited.
Super excited. 4 days. A few people are like, oh, it's 4 days, 4 days. Do you know what? Chicago is 5. And people have kind of forgotten that. So to have it for 4 days is brilliant. There's got to be something about the XL, because this is the 3rd time it's been at the XL. And I don't think it's been to another area 3 times. You know, you look at Anaheim twice and so on. But for it to come back to London for a 3rd time is absolutely incredible. There's so much to look forward to. I know that globally we're struggling a little bit. Europe is struggling. America, you know, everyone's on a bit of a downer at the moment, sort of financially. So I really do hope that it is visited by people all over the place, because these things are really made. You know, when we've got people from across the pond, people from Australia coming over, the Swedes coming over, people from Germany, you know, the whole mixture, the whole collection of Star Wars fans. I really, really hope that it's a mega busy one. At the same time, though, it was always nice at Essen when it wasn't that busy and you could just go into every panel. But yeah, super excited. We will be there in some way, shape or form, I'm sure, with a booth or a panel or who knows what.
Excited, Mark?
Yeah, of course I am. Absolutely. Just over the moon when they announced London. And I think pretty much like everybody else when you woke up, because I didn't know about it until the next day in the morning. I got onto Facebook and everybody's posting, London 2023. And all the Americans were moaning, and everybody in the UK were absolutely jumping up and down, hurriedly booking hotels as quickly as possible. So yeah, we had a frantic search around for a hotel. We managed to get one sorted. Would have liked to have booked another flat this time, but it just hasn't worked out. So yeah, booking a hotel for this one next year, and it'll be even better this time because I know so many more people. So it's going to be immense. And obviously, having done the one in 2016. And I know a bit more what's involved. Obviously, Generation Skywalker, it just makes for a really great sort of 4 or 5 days. And like I said to you earlier, I'm more excited about the things that go on outside of the venue, the meetups, the room sales, the drinking, the partying, the sort of general just hanging out with your mates, talking Star Wars. It's great. You know, one of the best things about being a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it's going to be epic proportions. Any tips, people that are going to come?
Take deodorant.
Well, that's not a tip. That's just you're either that way inclined or you're not. And sadly, there are too many that aren't. Yeah, don't spend money on toys. Spend money on toiletries.
I tell you what I did find helped. Some proper decent walking boots.
I think Grant will appreciate that comment because he wore some sandals once.
He wore sandals and flip flops one day and was in absolute agony. And yeah, he was begging me to go up to Mary Franklin and interrupt her meal to ask to get a medic or something. Yeah, no, that wasn't going to happen. Grant. Just absolutely, he's just in bits, but thinking that the right thing to do was to interrupt the organizer while she was having a meal. Yeah, what would I encourage people to do, or what would I recommend? Chat to people in the queue. Everyone's there for the same reason. It's incredible the friends you'll make. You know, I first met Sean Moynihan in a bar, just chatting. And then a couple of years later, I end up staying at his house on Staten Island when I go off to run marathon in New York. You know, just become solid friends. Friendships are made here. It's brilliant. That's the best part.
I'd agree with all that. Just make the effort. Put it in your diary. Make sure you're there the day the tickets go live. Experience it any which way you can. We're a small country. Sometimes London can feel a long way away if you live in other parts of England, but there's no excuses not to get the train down for at least one day and experience this thing for yourself. And, you know, from my perspective, I loved my time in Anaheim just gone. If I could change anything about it, I would have loved to have had you guys with me. It would have just made it all the more special, but we'll do it in London.
Honestly, my favorite thing is just seeing all the fans back here and feeling the love. It's, you know, we've been doing this for a few years now and it never gets old. It's just this like crazy love fest. And whenever people ask me what I love most about Celebration and what I love most about Star Wars, it's really the fan community because it is truly one of a kind.
Well, London Celebration, cannot wait. It's going to be good. But of course, you can check out our social media on this. Go and check out Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Search for Generation Skywalker. We're across them all. There's 3 Instagram pages, depending on what you're into. We have our main page linked to the show, and then we do have a vintage specific and a modern specific show. So go and have a little gander at them. Also on Facebook, we have our community page, We Are Generation Skywalker. Go and check out YouTube, the enhanced shows, unboxings, the Skywalker blasts of snippets of things we've done. And go and check out www.generationskywalker.com, where you will find links to everything, including some blogs and links to all the social media over there as well. But it is for this celebration of celebration. It is good night from Mark.
Night.
It is good night from Jez.
Sweet dreams, my LAX.
Was that Rachel Stevens?
It was.
Look at that.
Smoking.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everyone.
It's good night from Craig.
Cheerio.
And it is good night from me. And we are Generation Skywalker. All eras, all passions, all Star Wars.